Hello, third graders. I wanted to share another story with you. This one is called The Adventures of the Bailey School Kids. Leprechauns Don't Play Basketball. It's by Debbie Dady and Marcia Thornton Jones. It is a chapter book, so I'm going to record one chapter at a time. You can go along at your own pace. I'm also going to be doing some think alouds as I'm reading the story so that you can think through my reading strategies and use some of your own. On the front cover, I'm noticing that there are some illustrations of people, which I am assuming are the characters in the story. The title, Leprechauns Don't Play Basketball, gives me an idea that there might be a problem. So if there's character setting, problem, and solution, then I know that it's going to be a fiction book. I'm going to flip to the back cover. And on the back cover, there's a little blurb and an excerpt from the story. So I'm going to think about those and get my mind ready for reading. There's some pretty weird grown-ups living in Bailey City, but could the very short basketball coach from Ireland really be a leprechaun? The Bailey school kids are going to find out. Melody gasped. He must be a leprechaun. He's from Ireland. He's short and he's got a treasure. There's no such thing as leprechauns. Eddie sounded more sure than he felt. Howie shrugged. Maybe not, but Mr. O'Grady is no regular coach. And I wonder why Mrs. Jeepers acted so strange when we told her about Mr. O'Grady, Melody asked. So the back blurb gives me some more information that it's going to be a fiction book. Leprechauns Don't Play Basketball by Debbie Dady and Marcia Thornton Jones, illustrated by John Stephen Gurney. Before I start reading, I want to think about what I know about leprechauns. And I know that they are mythical creatures. They're known to be short. They're from Ireland. They are tricksters. They play pranks on people. They have a pot of gold. There's rainbows associated with leprechauns. So those things that I know about leprechauns, I want to keep in the back of my mind as I'm reading. I'm also going to take a look at the table of contents and think about the chapters and how the chapters are going to give me some information about the book. Chapter 1 is Mean Green Pinching Machine. Ooh, I know that sometimes on St. Patrick's Day, if you don't wear green, people pinch you. Chapter 2 is Eddie Cuts Loose. Number 3, Mr. Potato Head. Number 4, Bowling for Dancers. Number 5, Green Blood. Chapter 6, Stairway to the Emerald Isle. I know that the Emerald Isle is Ireland. Chapter 7 is The True Story of the Wee Folk. I know that the Wee Folk are leprechauns. Chapter 8 is Master Trickster. Chapter 9, Eddie's War. Chapter 10, Up to Their Eyeballs in Trouble. Chapter 11, Swing Your Partner. And Chapter 12, The End of the Rainbow. So some of those chapters going along with leprechaun stories. Bowling for Dancers, I'm wondering if that is Irish dancing, and Swing Your Partner, if that's going to go along with the dancing in Chapter 4. We will see. Chapter 1, Mean Green Pinching Machine. Melody and Liza met on the playground under the budding oak tree. The girls always met there before school. They were so busy giggling that neither one saw Eddie sneaking up behind them. He was wearing a Kelly green t-shirt under his blue jacket and a green baseball cap. Eddie reached around the gnarled tree trunk and pinched Melody as hard as he could. "Ow!" screeched Melody. "Why'd you do that?" "You're not wearing green," Eddie said. "Everybody knows that if you don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day, you get pinched, and I'm a mean green pinching machine." "Well," Melody snapped, "for your information, I am wearing green." "Where?" Eddie asked. Melody pointed to her tennis shoes. Each one was tied with a bright green shoelace. "I get to pinch you back," Melody insisted as she reached out to get him. Eddie raced across the playground and barreled into the third grade classroom of Bailey Elementary to have some St. Patrick's Day fun. But first, he glanced around to be sure that Mrs. Jeepers wasn't in the room. His teacher, Mrs. Jeepers, had long red hair and eyes the color of lime Kool-Aid. Picturing that? She always wore a giant brooch that matched her eyes. Mrs. Jeepers didn't allow any shenanigans. If someone tried to cause trouble, she would flash her green eyes in that student's direction and rubbed the brooch at her neck. There was something strange about her, very strange. Some kids even thought she was a vampire. After all, she was from the Transylvanian Alps in Romania, where Count Dracula had lived. She even wore a bat bracelet, which was definitely not normal for a teacher. The third graders in Mrs. Jeepers' room didn't dare make her mad. Luckily, Mrs. Jeepers was nowhere to be seen. Eddie sneaked up behind Carrie, the teacher's pet. She always got to school early to clean the chalkboards. Just as he had suspected, there wasn't a stitch of green on her. Eddie reached out to pinch her, but he never got the chance. Eddie, I am surprised to see you so early. Goosebumps ran wild all over Eddie's arms and neck when he heard Mrs. Jeepers speak in her strange accent. Eddie and Carrie both turned to face their teacher. Mrs. Jeepers stood in the door. She wore a purple skirt that touched the tops of her black pointy boots, and her brooch was pinned to the collar of her starched white shirt. She smiled at Eddie with an odd little half smile. I just thought I'd play a leprechaun trick, Eddie stammered. Mrs. Jeepers stopped smiling, and she rubbed the brooch at her neck. I will not allow activities having to do with those creatures. She shook her finger at Eddie. Eddie blinked in surprise. But it's just for fun. And besides, there isn't really any such thing as a leprechaun. Wouldn't it be neat if there were some leprechauns around here? Carrie giggled. No, Mrs. Jeepers gasped. Where I come from, leprechauns are considered worse than blood-sucking mosquitoes. But why? Carrie asked. They're so cute in pictures. Ah, but the true leprechaun is not as you imagine, Mrs. Jeepers whispered. Their mischievous tricks are a nuisance the world can do without. Eddie wanted to ask more about leprechauns, but the bell rang to start school. As the rest of the class filed in the door, Eddie couldn't help wondering why Mrs. Jeepers didn't like leprechauns. So after reading that chapter, I know that Eddie is kind of mischievous. He sounds like he's a little bit of a bully because he pinches the students and he's looking to make trouble. So I wonder if that's what we'll find out in the rest of the story. That is the end of chapter 1.